Hey guys, happy Monday. This is Mr. Grant here, coming to you live from my own house, my own kitchen. I got some great news for you this week that we're going to work on. There's a couple things that I want to talk to you about. So this week, what we're going to be talking about is a non-fictional text. It's called procedural. What we're going to be doing is we're going to determine the sequence of activities needed to carry out a procedure. What I have for you set up here is I have a really cool setup. Mr. Grant is going to help you make some Rice Krispie treats. If you've never made those before, this is what they look like. This is the finished product. Look how good they are. So, we're going to talk about a few things before we get started. First, some vocabulary that we're going to go through. Some words you might hear or see are procedural text. You might also hear sequence. You might also hear tasks. And tasks, remember, we talked in class is just jobs, things to be done. Process, some clue words that you're going to hear as Mr. Grant is making this on his pot on the stove are first, next, then, last, and finally. You might remember doing that with Mrs. Sanchez when you're writing your class and nonfiction unit. By the end of this week, you're going to be able to determine the sequence of activities needed to carry out a procedure or a task. Now, we're going to work on this all week, and you'll be able to do this with different activities and different projects that we have lined up for you. I know I'm going to be in Mrs. Peguese's class today, and I'm going to be in Mr. Grant's class. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get started. Today, I already showed you what it's going to look like. We're going to make some Rice Krispie treats. Let's talk about our ingredients, because the ingredients are very important. First, we're going to start with some butter. We have 3 tablespoons of butter. I have a big bag of marshmallows, about 40 regular sized marshmallows here. And I also have 6 cups of Rice Krispie treats. You can get Rice Krispie treats any kind you want. If you've never seen Rice Krispie treats, here's the box. It's kind of what they look like. So, we got our rice, we got our tablespoons of butter, we got our marshmallows. Believe it or not, that's it. It's a pretty simple recipe, and it's really tastes great. It's really a nice treat that you guys can make on your at home. Some of our equipment that we're going to be using today, I've got lots of stuff out for you. I've got a pan. You'll need a nice big pan to cook your marshmallows in. You'll need a 1 cup measuring cup to measure out your Rice Krispie treats. I also have a pizza cutter just in case if you want to cut your Rice Krispie treats into squares. If you get them from the store, you've seen them in little squares. I have a rubber spatula, and I also have a knife to cut the butter or whatever you might need, cut a bag open or something. I also have a metal pan. If you don't have a glass one like this, any pan will do. Doesn't have to be exact, but this is the kind of pan Mr. Grant's going to use as well. So, let's get started. Let's see what we're going to do. First, I want you guys to know that it's really important to wash your hands first, and always ask an adult before you try to make these yourself, especially if you're at home. You want to make sure you have your parents' permission. Okay, let's get started. If you're ready, say I'm ready. All right, here we go. Mr. Grant has already heated up this pot for us. First, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of butter into this pot. And it should melt pretty quickly, because as you can see, he's already made a batch. Make sure you wash your dirty dishes out as well. It's important. Or Smiles will get mad at me. So the butter is starting to melt. You can kind of see in the tub, in the pan, the pot. It's beginning to melt. Now I usually let this melt all the way down. And the reason why I do this process is because I don't want any chunks of butter in my Rice Krispie treats. So I'm going to melt this down. And I'm going to wait a few seconds. It may take a few minutes or whatever. But we'll kind of speed up the video as we go along. I'll keep my lid on to keep the heat inside. It's melting nicely there. You can see it's kind of a watery consistency. Should be pretty watery. So what I'm showing you guys is the very first step needed to create this treat called Rice Krispie treats. It's just a sequence of steps or tasks that we're all doing together here in the kitchen. I'm glad you guys could stop by my house on Sunday too. So I've got the butter nice and melted there. As you can see, it's kind of like a kind of watery substance. You see some Rice Krispies in there too from the last batch, but that's okay. Once the butter is completely melted, you want to add your Rice Krispies. This is 6 cups. I'm sorry, I messed up. Let me go back. Before we add the Rice Krispies, Mr. Grant forgot to add the marshmallows. These marshmallows here, you want to add about 40 of them. Make sure you add those in there. Now this process takes a little while. But what you want to do is you want to melt all of the marshmallows. I'm keeping my pot on, the directions say low heat, but I'm using a low medium heat and I'm just keeping an eye on it. So when you do this, you might want to start on a low heat if you've never done it before, because the marshmallows can melt really quickly and you don't want them to melt too quickly. And I also like, as soon as I put them in there, I like to cover them with butter really nicely. That way they can melt completely. Now this process is going to take a few minutes. It'll probably take, I don't know, a good 5 minutes if you're counting. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. You can kind of let them melt down, let them cook. You can throw the lid on. Throw the lid on and keep the heat in there. That usually helps as well. It's actually a very easy process. It's not that bad. There's a lot of other treats that are a lot harder to make out there. But I really like this one because I like the Rice Krispie treats and it's super easy to make. And it's a great way to see the sequence or see the passing of events to create this treat. So it's really nice and really easy to make. I'm just going to get some more water here. You can see it's cooking quietly. One important thing that Mr. Grant should mention while he is in the kitchen is to never leave the stove if something is cooking. That's a no-no. You want to make sure you're always there. So I'm going to check these again. And you can notice, you will see that the marshmallows are kind of, they're melting. You can see that they're melting. They're nicely covered in butter. They are melting pretty quickly. And I would mix them up every few minutes or so. So remember, first what we did was we gathered all of our ingredients. Then we gathered our utensils. After we gathered our utensils, we measured out the ingredients, 6 cups of Rice Krispie treats, about 40 large size marshmallows, and we have 3 tablespoons of butter. Another option that you guys have, which Mr. Grant did not add today, let me find it here, guys, sorry. Here we go. Is some food coloring. So this is simple food coloring. You guys have actually seen these in class or in projects. This is food coloring. You can add directly to the marshmallows that are cooking, or you can add to the final product. I would add it to the marshmallows while they're cooking, and the reason I say that is because once the marshmallows cool off, they're really, really tough, and it's going to be very difficult to mix them up. So you can add food coloring in yours. I won't, because Miss Miles doesn't like food coloring. She likes them just their natural white color. Then after we added all the ingredients, we first melted down the butter. We put in our 40 marshmallows, and that's where we are now. So, you can see the marshmallows are becoming nice and soupy. You want to make sure you have the exact amount of butter, because if you're not using enough butter, the marshmallows will become sticky and they'll stick to the pan and they'll stick to each other. You definitely don't want that going on. So just beware of that and be careful. So my marshmallows are almost done. So since they're almost done, I'm going to take one of my aluminum pans and I'm going to line it with wax paper. You guys have the option to use wax paper or not. I like to use wax paper because it's non-sticky and it doesn't stick to the pan, obviously. And it's very easy to take them out. So you can line your pan just like so. Very simple process. I'm going to set that on the back for a minute. So, wow, our marshmallows are looking great. Another 30 seconds and they'll be done. This might be a good question if I stop the video tomorrow in class, or today in class, and ask any questions, but for video sake, I'm going to keep going on. So now we have our marshmallows melted down nicely. Now here's the tricky part. You want to pour in the Rice Krispie treats relatively quickly, because if you don't, the marshmallows will cool down, and once the marshmallows cool down, it's very, very difficult to move them around. They almost become like a dried glue. So you want to make sure you pour them in quickly. I leave the heat on the oven. I leave heat on the stove just to keep the marshmallows nicely going. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I can hear it, and I don't want my marshmallows to burn up. So here we go. I'm going to take my 6 cups of Rice Krispie treats, and I'm going to slowly pour all of them, make sure you get them all, into your pot just like so. You see it? Now I'm going to mix and mix and mix and mix, stir them all up. You can see once I start stirring, you might even be able to hear them. But you can see them trying to get thick. And you don't want that to happen. You want to keep stirring until the marshmallows are completely covered. I'm sorry, excuse me. Until the Rice Krispies are completely covered with the marshmallows and the butter. Can you think of a better combination than marshmallows and butter? I can't. So, we'll get them nicely mixed together, just like so. They're looking good. Once you get them all mixed together, class, they'll look like this. Oh. They'll kind of look like this. You can kind of see them. This is where we take our pan, and we want to pour this quickly into our pan. What we want to do next is we have to smash them down and flatten them out. You know when you buy the Rice Krispies in the store or at the lunchroom, they're flat? Well, this is exactly what we're doing here. We're flattening them out to make them easier to eat later. So, while they're still warm or still hot, you want to flatten them out as much as you can. Now, once you get it mostly flat, a trick that I like to do is take another slice of wax paper. See how they're all nice and flat in the pan? Put the wax paper on top. Now be careful because you don't want them to burn your hands. They shouldn't be too hot. but you never know. Take them, mash them nicely. Oop. You didn't see that. Mash them nicely into the pan. Now there's two reasons I do this. One, so I can stack another batch on top. And two, that way these are nice and cooled. And they're also flat. See how nice and flat they are? Now what you want to do is you don't want to touch these while they're warm. You don't even want to cut them. Just keep them cool, keep them warm. I'm sorry, let them cool, and as you go on, you can eventually eat them. But that's our lesson for the day. That's how you're going to learn how to sequence events. Remember this week what we're talking about is determining the sequence of activities needed to carry out a procedure. Our procedure today for Monday is going to be the Rice Krispie treats. I hope you enjoyed it, and I might even save you some after class. We'll see you soon. Bye.